everyone, and welcome to
The Movie House.
Today we're going to talk to you about a movie from 1941 called Here Comes Mr. Jordan, starring Robert Montgomery and Claude Rains. It's one of my favorite movies all time. It's black and white, and it's a story of a boxer named Joe Pendleton who is training to become the next champion of the world. And he's likes to fly from destination to destination. They call him the flying pug, he says. And he goes on his trip and experiences some malfunctions, and you see this plane crashing into the earth. The next thing you know, there's these guys walking through the clouds, two guys walking towards you in the clouds, and one of them is Joe Pendleton and one of them is this other guy. Turns out it's his sort of guardian angel, played by Edward Everett Horton, one of the greatest character actors of the 40s. He played the same character in every movie himself, I guess. And Joe's like, well, this isn't right. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to fight. And I was getting ready for my fight. And everybody keeps telling him, well, you got to be here. That's why you're here. And they find out by going to Mr. Jordan, played by Claude Rains, who's the boss of the Heavenly Way station there where they're at now. And he checks and finds out that Joe's not supposed to die for another 50 years. So they find out that his guardian angel, Edward Horton's character, pulled him out of his body before he actually crashed. And he probably would have survived. So Mr. Jordan says, well, just take him back and put him back in his body. Okay, that sounds simple enough. So they go back to Earth to do that, and they find out his body's been cremated. Uh-oh. So Mr. Jordan decides Mr. Jordan decides they have to find him a new body, and Joe agrees. And so that's the setup. And the rest of the movie is them trying to find Joe another body to inhabit so he can go on with the rest of his life. He's got another 50 years to live.
Yes.
What did you think about the movie?
It was a good movie. We're going to do another what is it that we do? A review about Heaven Can Wait.
Right.
Which this movie, Here Comes Mr. Jordan, is based on a play called Heaven Can Wait that was never actually produced. And they made a movie version called Here Comes Mr. Jordan, but there was a remake of the movie in the 70s called Heaven Can Wait, which we're going to do a review about. So it's the same story, but a little bit different. So we'll go into that later. So like Wally said, I'd never seen Here Comes Mr. Jordan, but I was very familiar with Heaven Can Wait. And both are very, very good movies. I thought this was well done. It has a lot of great humor. Again, you have great acting. The black and white, they just knew what to do with it back then. And so the version we got was Criterion, which I highly recommend. Get Criterion produced movies because they clean it up really, really well. Again, this is from 1941, and Criterion does a really, really good job. We have a lot of Chaplin films that have been rescued by Criterion, which look like they were just made. And the same with this movie. So I like it. It's a really interesting idea. And you wonder, it's like, oh, that's kind of hard, to believe. But then how the chaos ensues when you realize, oops, this guy wasn't going to die. Now what do we do? And it's just really, really entertaining and just gives you a lot of pause to think about, something like this actually ever happened.
Yeah,
because it's not reincarnation. That's not what it is.
Yeah, it's got a lot of different levels to it. It's very funny. It's very poignant. It's kind of thought-provoking too, in its whole premise. And again, how they set out some of the rules of how things work, and as you go through and you follow Joe's adventure to get back on his life back on track, literally.
In a sense, yeah. How do you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's got romance and intrigue. Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything. It's really a sort of a wild combination, but it just works. the talent involved is just stellar. Like you said, the restoration looks beautiful. Even though it's black and white, it's a beautiful looking film. The sound is still good. And I saw this movie when I was a kid. And I was just wrapped up in the whole idea of this guy's
dilemma.
Yeah, he's been removed from his body and they need to put him back into a body. And how is this all going to work out? And how can this possibly work in the end? And but at the same time, it's very funny. Mr. Gleason, I forget his first name. I'll put his name on the screen. He plays Max Corkle, who's his boxing manager. He's hysterically funny.
Is he the same character in both movies? Are they the same names?
Yes, the same name in both movies. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, and he's also in Arsenic and Old Lace with Edward
Horton and Cary Grant and right. Yeah, he's
a good character. Yeah. He's a good character actor as well.
And he was actually brought into this movie to punch up the dialogue because he's actually is a writer first and foremost, which I didn't know, and he's very good at that sort of street
vernacular how they would speak,
right, of the 30s and 40s of like a place like New York. And so he punched up the dialogue and it made it sound more realistic for people who are New Yorkers. And I guess Robert Montgomery, I haven't seen a lot of his work. I hope to see more of it. But I read that he was sort of always cast in these more sophisticated roles. And here he's playing a pug, a pugilist, just a simple guy from New York who just gets his head beat in for a living. And he's great.
Yes.
He's very believable.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just I can't recommend it highly enough. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's got a little bit of everything: romance, pulls at your heartstrings, you name it.
Yes,
it just works.
And spoiler alert: if you haven't seen the movie, it's interesting. Some of the concepts and like the thought provoking. Because let's just say there's somebody being murdered in the course of this, and Joe is trying to get Mr. Jordan to stop it. And he's like, there's nothing I can do about it. These people are practicing free will. And so that's really interesting because we struggle with that as humans all the time, right? It's like, why did this happen? Why didn't somebody stop it? And here the heavenly forces are saying, we can't do anything about it. That's out of our jurisdiction. These are humans making these decisions, and it is what it is. Yeah. And so don't let that bother you. In a sense, it's like you can't let that bother you, what these humans are doing, and no, we can't intervene.
Yeah, we're just here to collect this spirit and take it where it's supposed to go.
Yeah,
that's all we're going to do.
It's really interesting, and again, there's layers. You know, it's like the end. We're not going to tell you the end. You'll have to see it, but it's you're like, but is this fair?
Yeah,
is this right?
Right,
and
well, and it plays into the whole idea too of who are we?
Mm-hmm.
If you were removed from your body, your spirit and your soul and your essence was removed from your body and put in somebody else's body, would anybody know it was you?
Right.
Or would they just see the other person?
Right.
And those sorts of ideas. I mean, it's just again,
it's really fascinating. Yeah, whoever the author who came up with this, it's a really interesting concept.
But you can just enjoy it too on the level of just it's a funny
screwball comedy.
Where this is a wild situation that they just run with and have fun watching them go about trying to make right what went wrong because this one guy made a goof.
Yes.
And now Mr. Jordan has to try and fix his underling's goof.
Yeah, and Claude Rains is fantastic. Yeah. And every character, again, is three-dimensional. And they're not all the same. So that's what's great too. They're very distinct personalities, and acting approach is very different. I want to put a plug into Evelyn Keyes is in this movie. And I didn't recognize her at first. I'm not I haven't seen too much of her work, but she played Sue Ellen in Gone with the Wind. So she was Scarlett O'Hara's younger sister. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she was much younger in Gone with the Wind. And this is just 2 years later.
Right.
So, but it's different to see her in this character, which is much nicer and sweeter than Sue Ellen was. So that's kind of neat too, her character as well.
Yeah.
And seeing her acting ability.
Yeah, she's good. She's very good.
Yeah, she's very good. Everybody's very good in the movie.
Okay. Well, that's it for Here Comes Mr. Jordan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.